I told myself I'd keep my distance. But the moment she walked in, the air changed. She didn't rush. She never did. Every movement of hers was deliberate, like she was editing time itself, trimming away everything that wasn't necessary. Her hair, dark with silver at the edges, was tied low, her blouse, soft linen, brushed against her skin like it had been chosen for comfort, not effect. But that was the thing about her, everything she did became effect. I was leaning against the kitchen counter, pretending to check my phone, but my eyes kept tracing the faint curve of her reflection in the window. The sound of her bracelets when she adjusted her sleeve. The scent of her perfume, faint, like sandalwood and something sharper underneath. You said you'd stop by, not move in, she teased, setting down her bag. I said I'd help, I murmured. Didn't say how much. She smiled, that half smile she gave when she didn't know whether to be amused or cautious. It always made me forget the rest of the room existed. She was my mother's friend. Or used to be. They hadn't spoken in years, and somehow I'd ended up the one fixing her shelves, unclogging her sink, replacing old bulbs. That's how it started, practical reasons. But nothing about her ever stayed practical for long. The afternoon light shifted, warm and low, spilling across her living room. Dust hung in the air like gold flakes, and she stood in the middle of it, sleeves rolled up, glass of water in her hand, as if the whole world had decided to slow down just for her. I could have done that myself, you know, she said, nodding toward the fixed curtain rod. I know, I said. But you let me. She paused, not long, but long enough. You think I let you? Her tone wasn't sharp, but something behind it made my throat dry. I didn't answer. Her eyes flicked toward me then, direct, unflinching. You're too young to be this quiet, she said softly. I'm not quiet, I said. You just make it hard to speak. She blinked. The glass in her hand tilted slightly before she caught it. A faint color touched her cheeks, not blush exactly, more like warmth she didn't want noticed. I looked down, but the silence between us was alive, filled with every word we didn't dare say. Don't start that, she said finally, her voice low. You said you'd keep your distance. I did, I said. And I mean to. Good. She turned away, but didn't move far. Only half a step. Close enough that I could see the small freckle beneath her ear, the soft pulse in her neck. The sound of her breath filled the quiet. You shouldn't look at me like that, she whispered. I'm trying not to. She laughed, quietly. Try harder. But she didn't move. Neither did I. The window beside us caught our reflections, two people standing a little too close, pretending there was still space between them. I don't know who moved first. Maybe it was her. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was both of us, tired of pretending distance meant safety. The warmth of her hand brushed mine, barely, and still my chest tightened like it was the first real touch I'd ever felt. Her gaze lifted, met mine, and something in her eyes said don't. Something else said please. The clock ticked once. Then, a sound at the door. The click of a key. She froze. Her breath caught halfway through her throat. Someone's here, she whispered. And before I could answer, she stepped back, the air between us suddenly cold, like whatever had been about to happen had dissolved with the sound of that door turning open. She pretended the sound at the door hadn't shaken her, but I saw it, the way her fingers tightened around the counter edge, knuckles whitening before she forced herself to breathe. It wasn't anyone. Just the wind against the frame, a false alarm. But whatever almost happened between us had folded into silence, delicate and dangerous. When she spoke again, her voice was steady, but her hands betrayed her. You should go, she said. I nodded, though neither of us moved. The next time I came over, it was raining, the kind of slow, steady rain that seeps into everything. She opened the door barefoot, sweater hanging loose, hair damp at the edges. You're going to catch cold, I said. She gave a soft laugh. You sound like my ex-husband. It was the first time she'd mentioned him. I'd heard bits, that he'd left years ago, that she didn't talk about it. But something in her tone made me ask, do you still see him? No, she turned, motioned for me to come in. He remarried. Twice. Her living room smelled faintly of cinnamon and rain. There were books stacked on the floor, a record spinning something soft and distant. Do you ever, I began, but she cut in gently. Don't ask if I miss him. Do you? She met my eyes. No. I miss who I thought I was with him. The way she said it, quiet, unguarded, made my chest tighten. She'd built her world out of composure, and that was the first time I saw the crack in it. Later, I was on the floor, fixing the cabinet door again. She'd mentioned it squeaked. She stood near me, arms crossed, watching. Her robe sleeve slipped slightly as she reached to hand me a screwdriver, and I saw a thin scar running down the inside of her wrist. Before I could stop myself, I asked, what happened? Kitchen accident, she said too quickly. I didn't believe her, but I nodded anyway. When she crouched beside me to see what I was doing, her shoulder brushed mine. The warmth of her skin, the faint scent of her shampoo, it was all too close. You shouldn't look at me like that, she murmured again, barely above a whisper. I smiled without meaning to. You keep saying that. Because you keep doing it. Her voice trembled, just slightly. I can stop, I said. No, you can't, she replied, and then caught herself, shaking her head as if to erase the words. You should go before it gets dark. I didn't move right away. Neither did she. Only the soft hum of rain between us, the air thick with things we'd both denied too long. Then, as I stood, she reached for the wrench I held, her fingers grazing mine. It was nothing, a simple pass, yet it felt like more than anything either of us had said. She didn't let go immediately. Her hand lingered, warm and trembling. And for a moment, neither of us pretended anymore. She called me that evening, her voice low, almost uncertain. I think the cabinet's come loose again, she said. It hadn't even been a week. When I arrived, she was standing by the window, backlit by the gold of the setting sun. The house was quiet except for a faint hum of a record still spinning from hours ago. You didn't have to come, she said when I stepped in. I wanted to, I said before I could stop myself. She turned her face toward me, eyes soft, tired. You always say things like that. Like what? Things that sound harmless until they're not. I crouched by the cabinet, tools scattered around me, pretending I was focused on the screws when all I could see was her reflection in the glass, arms folded, one foot slightly turned in, her posture both defensive and delicate. Does anyone know you're here? She asked suddenly. I hesitated. No, she exhaled slowly. Good. The word hung there, not relief, not approval, just something. Half an hour later, I was about to leave when a phone buzzed on the counter. Her phone. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize, Lydia. A photo flashed beside it, the two of them laughing, arms around each other. Before she could answer, she looked at me and muttered, "She's nosy. Always asks too much." But she didn't pick up. She let it ring until it stopped, the silence afterward heavier than it should have been. Does she know about, I started. There's nothing to know, she cut in. You fix things. I pay you in tea and sarcasm. That's all. But her tone betrayed her, it was too careful, too practiced. When I stood to leave, she followed me to the door. Rain had started again, faint, misting against the glass. I reached for the handle, but her voice stopped me. Wait. I turned. She stepped closer, just a fraction, but it felt like the whole world narrowed between us. Her fingers brushed my sleeve, then retreated, uncertain. You should stop coming here so much, she said softly. People notice things. Do you want me to stop? Her lips parted. I didn't say that. I could feel her breath now, warm and unsteady. I just don't know how to explain you, she added. You don't have to. Yes, I do, she whispered. To myself. The silence after that felt alive, like the air had weight. She looked up, and for a moment, I thought she might close the distance between us. Her hand rose, hovered near my collar, hesitated. Don't, she murmured. But she didn't move away. I didn't either. Then, a knock at the door. Sharp. Sudden. She jumped, stepping back so quickly her bracelet slipped down her wrist and hit the floor. Through the glass, a shadow, the same woman from her phone photo. Lydia, she whispered, eyes wide. She can't see you here. I nodded, heart hammering, slipping into the hallway. Before the door opened, she turned, eyes meeting mine once more. Tomorrow, she mouthed. And even though we hadn't touched, I could still feel the warmth of her almost hand against my skin. It was late when I came back, too late to have a reason. The streetlights outside her house flickered, the windows glowed faintly amber. I told myself I was only returning her wrench, but even I didn't believe that. When she opened the door, she didn't look surprised. Only tired. Her hair was loose, falling over her shoulders, and she was wearing a sweater that looked softer than air. You shouldn't be here, she said. I know. Then why are you? I held up the wrench, forcing a weak smile. You forgot this. Her gaze flicked to it, then back to me. You walked 3 blocks at midnight for a wrench? Maybe. I hesitated. Maybe not. She stepped aside wordlessly, and I followed her in. The air inside was warm, heavy with the scent of something she'd been drinking, maybe chamomile, maybe wine. Lydia stopped by earlier, she said, voice low. She asked about you. What did you tell her? That I barely know you. The words landed harder than I expected. Barely? She sighed. You think I can just tell people that? She stopped herself. That I let you linger in my kitchen? That I wait for you to knock? The way she said it, almost trembling, sent a pulse through the quiet. You don't have to say it, I said. I already know. No, you don't, she whispered, turning toward me. You think this is simple. You think it's a story where age doesn't matter, where people don't talk, where I don't. She broke off, her breath shaking. You don't know what it's like to lose everything once and then feel it coming again. I took a small step forward. Then stop pretending you don't feel it at all. Her eyes flashed up, meeting mine, and something inside her cracked open, not fully, but enough to see through. You're a child, she said, though her voice betrayed her. You don't even know what you want. I know exactly what I want, I said, and before I could stop myself, I reached up, my fingers brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. She didn't flinch. Her breath caught. The distance between us became unbearable. You shouldn't, she whispered. I already did. Her hand came up then, closing around my wrist. Not to push me away, but to keep it there. Her eyes were wet now, but not from tears. I can't, she began, but her voice broke. Then don't say it, I murmured. The air pulsed between us, quiet, charged, infinite. Her forehead nearly touched mine, her fingers trembled against my skin. Tell me to leave, I said. She didn't. Instead, she whispered, you make it hard to breathe. The words landed like contact, like something final and forbidden. And then, a single knock at the window. We froze. Her breath still warm against my lips, her hands still tangled with mine. Outside, the shadow moved past, gone in a second. But the space between us didn't move at all. We stayed like that, halfway between what we wanted and what we feared, knowing that the next breath might change everything. She didn't open the curtains the next morning. The house was darker than usual, shadows stretching long across the floor. When I knocked, she hesitated before answering. Her hair was tied up messily, her voice quieter. You shouldn't be here, she said again. You keep saying that, I murmured. But you keep opening the door. This time, she didn't smile. She just turned away, walking back toward the kitchen. The kettle on the stove was already steaming. Lydia called me last night, she said. She saw us. I froze. When? At the window. When you left. She set 2 mugs on the counter, her hands unsteady. She said she thought you were my son. I didn't know whether to laugh or sink into the floor. Did you tell her the truth? She looked up then, eyes dark, guarded. What truth? That question hung between us, sharper than anything else. We sat opposite each other at the table, the air thick with the scent of tea neither of us drank. She's already told people, she said finally. That I'm seeing someone too young. That I've lost sense. That maybe it's not the first time. My chest tightened. Does it matter what they think? It matters when you've spent years rebuilding your life to look stable. Her words cut clean, but her eyes softened after a beat. You don't know what it's like to have your reputation ripped apart. I don't care about reputation, I said. I know, she said softly. That's what scares me. She stood then, pacing, slow, measured steps that betrayed her agitation. You think this is about rules, about what people will say. But it's not. It's about how I see myself when you're here. I stood too, not sure if I was supposed to follow or stay back. What do you mean? She turned suddenly, closer than I expected. You make me feel like I'm someone I used to be. And I'm not her anymore. Her voice wavered, barely above a whisper. I'm not supposed to want this, she said, looking up at me. Not you. But you do. Her breath hitched, a tiny sound, but enough. Don't make me say it, she whispered. I took 1 step forward. Her back pressed lightly against the counter. She didn't move away. Why hide something that's already written all over you? I asked. Her hand came up, not to stop me, but to steady herself. Her fingers brushed my chest, then fell. You don't understand, she said, eyes glistening. It's not just about me anymore. What do you mean? She hesitated, then spoke so quietly I almost missed it. My ex-husband called last night. He's coming by. He wants to talk. The words hit like cold air. When? Today. Silence. For a moment, neither of us breathed. Then she whispered, if he sees you here, he'll know. I looked at her, the panic in her eyes mixing with something deeper, fear, yes, but also desire barely held in check. Then tell me what to do, I said. Her lips parted. Don't come back. But as I turned toward the door, her hand caught my wrist again, the same way it had before. Unless you can't help it, she added, voice trembling. The room was still, the clock ticking in slow, heavy beats. And even as I left, I already knew, I'd be back. When I returned, it wasn't planned. It was dusk, the kind of in-between light that blurs what's real and what's not. Her car was in the driveway. The front door was slightly open. I didn't knock this time. Inside, the house was quiet except for the ticking clock and the faint hum of something left unsaid. She was standing by the table, arms folded, a half-empty glass of wine beside her. Her ex-husband's jacket hung on the chair, but he wasn't there. She looked up when she saw me. No surprise, just a long, exhausted inhale. He's gone, she said. I know. He said I've changed. Maybe you have. Her mouth twitched, not quite a smile. And what do you think I've changed into? Someone honest, I said. That broke her composure, a soft, uncertain laugh that dissolved almost instantly. You shouldn't be here, she whispered again. But this time, the words were brittle, fragile, barely a defense. I know, I said. And yet. I stepped closer. She didn't move. The air thickened, that quiet tension between two people who've already made their choice without saying it aloud. You think this will end well? She asked, voice trembling just enough to betray her. No, I said. But it feels real. She closed her eyes for a moment, as if steadying herself. Real doesn't mean right. Then maybe right doesn't mean anything. Her breath hitched, and when she opened her eyes again, I could see everything she'd been trying to hide: fear, hunger, guilt, want. I've spent years being careful, she said. Being proper. Being the version of myself people expect. I can't afford to fall back into something reckless. Maybe you were never reckless, I said softly. Maybe you were just alive. Her lips parted slightly. My name left her mouth like an exhale. Don't. But she didn't step away. When I reached up, my hand brushed her jaw, the warmth of her skin, the tremor beneath it. She leaned into the touch for a heartbeat, then caught my wrist, holding it there. You'll regret this, she murmured. I already do, I said, and I haven't even done it yet. The smallest smile flickered across her face, sad, knowing. Then she stepped closer. Our foreheads nearly touched. Her breath mingled with mine, slow and unsteady. The world shrank to the sound of the clock and the uneven rhythm of two people fighting something they'd already lost to. This isn't supposed to happen, she whispered. Then let's stop pretending it isn't. Her hand trembled as it rose to my chest. You don't understand. I do, I said. You're scared. So am I. Silence. Just breath, and closeness, and the faintest tremor of everything about to break. Then, she let go of my wrist. Not to push me away, but to pull me closer. The space between us disappeared. It wasn't a kiss yet, just the weight of inevitability, her breath against my lips, her pulse racing against my hand. And then, in a voice so small it almost vanished, she said, whatever happens after this, we don't get to pretend anymore. I don't want to, I whispered. And for the first time, she didn't stop me. Morning came quietly. The storm had passed some time before dawn, leaving the windows fogged and the world soft. I woke to the smell of coffee, not strong, just enough to fill the room with warmth. She was standing by the stove, wearing the same sweater from last night. Her hair was uncombed, a few silver strands falling across her face. The light from the window touched her gently, as if even the sun had learned to move slower around her. Neither of us said anything at first. The silence was different now, not heavy, not tense. Just full. You didn't leave, she said finally, without turning. You didn't ask me to. A small breath left her, almost like a laugh. I thought you'd regret it. I did, I said, walking closer. And then I didn't. She turned to face me. Her eyes were softer now, not the sharp, guarded kind that had kept me at arm's length for weeks. They were tired, yes, but peaceful in a way that made my chest ache. You know this doesn't get easier, she said. I know. And people will talk. They already do. She smiled, faintly. You're too young to understand how much noise people can make. Then let them, I said. They weren't here last night. Something in her broke then, not in a tragic way, but like a wall finally lowering after years of being built too high. She set down her cup and reached out, fingers grazing mine before she took my hand fully. Do you know what scared me most? She whispered. What? That you'd leave before I got the chance to admit I wanted you here. I lifted her hand, thumb tracing the edge of her wrist, the small scar she'd once tried to hide. You don't have to admit it, I said. I already knew. She looked up, eyes bright in the morning light. You shouldn't know me this well. I think I was always supposed to. Her breath caught, not from nerves, but from something quiet and sure. She stepped closer until her forehead rested against my shoulder, her voice barely a murmur. I don't know what this is going to look like, she said. Or how long it lasts. Then we don't name it, I said. We just live it. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Just the sound of the rain starting again, faint and rhythmic against the glass. My hand rested on her back, hers at the base of my neck, small, grounding, real. When she finally looked up, she smiled the kind of smile that comes only after surrender. You make me feel like I can breathe again, she said. I brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. Then let's start there. The world outside was still gray, uncertain, but the space between us, for once, wasn't. And when she leaned in, slow and deliberate, the kiss wasn't hurried or stolen. It was steady, like coming home to something we'd both been missing without realizing it. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?